Hey guys, so Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse GameStop exclusive Swamp Thing. Now before we get started here, let us first take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, it should be worth noting that this is the exact same Swamp Thing Mega Fig that McFarlane Toys put out in their DC Multiverse line during the holiday season last year, with the exception of the new 52-ish style head sculpt. And other than the collectible trading card, which I can only imagine has a different image on the front, this guy comes with the same exact accessories as that previously released Swamp Thing, like the little kind of spear blade hand, and of course the McFarlane staple, the hockey puck stand. So, with that being said, I do not, unfortunately, have that collectible trading card to show you guys because I was lent this figure to review by good old Mr. Brian, aka my dad, aka the old man, who's a heretic and leaves all of his stuff in the box most of the time, and to not damage the packaging on his Swamp Thing, he left the trading card in its plastic prison. So, you know, what you gonna do? We're gonna review this figure. Now, as I said before, taking a closer look at good old Swampy here, the only difference between this figure and the previous Swamp Thing, with the exception of maybe some color here and there, because no two figures are really alike, right? But the only difference is this head sculpt. Now, that's actually a really good shot of the head sculpt, if I do say so myself. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is his new 52 look. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but the standard release is Rebirth, and this one is new 52, if I'm not mistaken. I do remember him having antlers around that time. He also had some really cool looking angel wings made out of, leaves and foliage and whatnot, but this guy costs the same as the Rebirth Swamp Thing, so I don't imagine that giving him those wings was really an option, period, as far as keeping him at the same price point goes. I would have gladly paid a little bit more to get the wings, but the Todd Father's always trying to save us money where he can, so, if you're a completionist with this line, this guy doesn't cost any more than the standard release. So that is really, really cool, because you get a little bit more plastic here thanks to these antlers. And while it may not seem like much, it's definitely more than Hasbro would give you, that's for sure. But I really like this head sculpt. I wouldn't mind picking up just this head sculpt loose if I could later on to have for my Swamp Thing. Again, since the colors are pretty much exactly the same, having both heads would be a really cool option to have, and that's about my only gripe with the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse line, is we don't get both heads most of the time. We usually only get one, and then the other one's a variant or whatnot. I think the only figure that comes with swappable heads that I can think of off the top of my head is the Jack Napier Joker from the White Knight series, but going on a tangent, this head sculpt looks really, really cool. I like the antlers, even though one of them doesn't really look like an antler. It just looks like some crazy root bizarreness, and then the other one has a little bit more of an antler shape to it. I would have liked to have seen maybe this mirrored on this side, but that's not how McFarlane rolls. Even if it isn't accurate to the source material, I still think this is a really nice looking head sculpt. And as far as articulation goes, so we're not here all day, I'll make this quick. His head has a double ball peg, so you can look around. It is pretty tight, so, be careful with that. You're going to want to heat it up before you do too much with it. His shoulders go out to the side, they go back down. He rotates forward and back. He's got a bicep swivel. He's got an elbow swivel, which he has looser joints here and there than mine does in places, but mine also has other loose joints where this one doesn't. So it's kind of an odd trade-off. I don't know if you'd call that mold degradation or just luck of the draw, but he does have a single joint at the elbow. Gives you almost 90. He's got a swivel in the wrist with a hinge. It works pretty well. I will say this spear hand here, where is it, goes on this side. So if you want to swap that out, you can. He does have a diaphragm joint, which is a little bit loose on this guy, I'm not going to lie. Compared to mine anyways. But I did kind of find a sweet spot. He can crunch forward, but I don't want to loosen this up any more than it already is. He's got the same thing in the waist, but again, that's pretty tight too, so I don't want to loosen it up, even though he is going back in the box. Now his hips are a little bit better than mine were. They have a little bit more of a heavy detent in there, but mine aren't bad. He's got a thigh cut, a little bit of a quiver there. He's got double knee. And really, that was my only gripe with this figure. The knees are a bit on the gappy side. I mean, they cut a chunk of the thigh out here, it looks like. This is where the kneecap starts. This is where the thigh ends. I don't know why they cut it that way. The bottom knee is definitely not bad. It's smooth, but it doesn't have this big trench in it. But, you know, one joint's better than 4, I guess. Well, if you double it, it'd be 8, right? And then, as far as his ankles go, he has a hinge. He's got the ball, so you can rotate it at the top and on the bottom. Kind of. Sort of. There you go. And then he's got the toe hinge. Toe hinge is okay on both sides on this guy. I wish they were a little bit more detented, but whatever. And he's got peg holes at the bottom of the feet for the hockey puck stand, but I don't know. I haven't had any problems standing this guy. Albeit he is a little bit looser than mine was, but for the most part, not too shabby. Really awesome figure, man. You know, it's just as good the second time around, maybe a little bit more so because you get a little bit more plastic here. Not really sure what people expected with this version of Swampy, but I think he's pretty kick-ass, man. I dig him a lot. So, with that being said, let's take a look at some size comparisons. First up, and what I really meant by take a look at some size comparisons is we're going to compare this new antler head Swamp Thing to the previous release, which link in the description below to my review of that figure, by the way. And then, of course, we'll bring in our 2 regulars in just a moment, because, again, he is pretty much exactly the same as this previous release, with the exception of maybe some color differences here and there, and, of course, the new head sculpt. But, of course, the new antler head Swamp Thing is going to be a little bit taller than the previous one, but, you know, it's kind of a pick your poison deal. The standard edition, I guess we'll call it, is a little bit more traditional, and I think based off the Rebirth books, while this one, the new one here with the antlers, is a little bit more like the new 52 look. Again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that one, but I like both. I wouldn't mind having both, but, you know, space and money, they don't grow on trees, right? And last, but certainly not least, we have our 2 regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus, 11 Spawn, and of course, old Swampy's going to tower over good old Al Simmons here because he is a mega fig after all. So with that being said, time to wrap things up and some final thoughts. Overall, and while I'm not quite sure what people were expecting with this version of good old Swampy, I'm 110% confident in saying you're getting even more bang for your buck value here than you did with the standard release that came out last year. If you guys know me and watch this channel, you know damn well that I love that figure so much that I threw him on my top 13 action figures of 2021 list. And while that figure is still kick-ass in its own right, you're getting even more plastic here for the same price point. So if you missed out on that standard release of Swamp Thing last year and can't find it now, I would highly suggest you try and track this one down. And while that may be easier said than done since this is a GameStop exclusive, you may still be able to get it off the website. And if you got coupons, you can get it a little bit cheaper with free shipping, might I add. And with the inevitable cost of inflation constantly going up, that's not such a bad deal now, is it? Especially when you consider the fact that Marvel Legends figures are slowly creeping towards a $30 price point for a standard figure, might I add. And I just say, yeesh to that. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, comment civil, because the world sucks enough as it is. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.